Dr. Alan Carter stared at his computer screen, his coffee growing cold beside his keyboard. The quantum readings made no sense. For the third time this week, his sensors had picked up strange energy patterns in Earth's orbit. These weren't normal satellite signals or space debris. They were something else entirely. He rubbed his tired eyes and checked the time. 3:27 a.m. The laboratory was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and equipment. Most of his colleagues at the Berkeley Quantum Research Center had gone home hours ago, but Alan couldn't leave, not with these readings staring him in the face. He reached for his phone and dialed a familiar number. After 4 rings, a groggy voice answered. "Jennifer, it's Alan. I need you to look at something." Lieutenant Jennifer Walsh of the Earth Defense Force sighed on the other end. "Alan, do you know what time it is?" I know. But remember those weird patterns we talked about last week? They're back, and they're stronger." There was a pause, followed by the sound of rustling sheets. "Send me the data. I'll be there in 30 minutes. While waiting for Jennifer, Alan paced the lab, his mind racing. As a quantum physicist, he had spent years studying the strange behavior of particles at the smallest levels. But these readings suggested something happening on a much larger scale, something that shouldn't be possible with any known technology on Earth. Jennifer arrived wearing her usual Earth Defense Force uniform, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. Despite the early hour, she looked alert and focused. She had been Alan's friend since college, and her position in the Military Science Division had led to many collaborative projects over the years. "Show me," she said, pulling up a chair next to his workstation. Alan pulled up the data graphs. "Look at these energy signatures. They're appearing and disappearing at regular intervals, always in these specific orbital patterns." He pointed to several spots on the screen. "And here's the weird part. They seem to be observing our satellite networks." Jennifer leaned closer, her expression growing serious. "Can you track their source?" "That's just it. They seem to come from nowhere. It's like..." He hesitated, knowing how it would sound. "It's like they're cloaked." Jennifer didn't laugh or dismiss his theory. Instead, she pulled out her secure tablet and began typing. "We've been getting some strange reports lately. Unusual radar anomalies, unexplained atmospheric disturbances. Most people wrote them off as equipment malfunctions, but..." She turned her tablet to show him. The screen displayed a classified report about similar energy patterns detected by military satellites around the globe. "Your readings match our data perfectly." Alan felt his heart race. "So what are we dealing with?" "I don't know," Jennifer replied. "But I'm calling this in. We need to." She was cut off by a sudden high-pitched whine from Alan's equipment. Every screen in the lab lit up at once, displaying the same message. "Greetings, Earth species. Preliminary observation period complete." Alan and Jennifer stared at the screens in shock. The message continued. "Your civilization has been categorized as development level 2.7 on the Galactic Standard Scale. Formal contact will now begin." "Oh my God," Jennifer whispered, already reaching for her emergency communicator. "Alan, start recording everything." Before Alan could respond, the lab's lights flickered, and a soft blue glow filled the room. The air seemed to ripple, and suddenly they weren't alone anymore. 3 tall, silvery figures stood before them. They were humanoid in basic shape, but their bodies seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Their faces were smooth and featureless except for what appeared to be sensory organs arranged in geometric patterns. The central figure spoke, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "We are representatives of the Galactic Confederation. We are known as the Axioni. Your species has reached a sufficient level of development to warrant official notice." Alan struggled to find his voice. "You've been watching us." "Correct. For what you would measure as approximately 3 of your Earth years, we have observed your technological progress, social structures, and biological development. You have been classified as a primitive, but potentially promising species." Jennifer stepped forward, her military training evident in her steady voice. And what exactly does that classification mean for Earth? The Accione's response held a note of what could only be described as condescension. It means you will be monitored and evaluated for possible future inclusion in galactic society. Your current technological level is quaint. Your understanding of quantum mechanics, for instance, is particularly rudimentary. Ellen felt a flash of irritation at their dismissive tone. If our understanding is so rudimentary, how did I detect your presence? For the first time, the aliens showed a reaction. A slight ripple passed through their metallic forms. A fortunate accident, nothing more. Your species often stumbles upon discoveries you cannot fully comprehend. Jennifer's hand moved subtly toward her sidearm. And if we refuse to be monitored? Refusal is not an option. We are informing you of our presence as a courtesy, not seeking permission. Your species is far too primitive to resist or object. We will continue our observation program. Your governments will be notified through appropriate channels. The central figure turned to its companions and communicated in a series of musical tones. Then it addressed Alan and Jennifer again. This facility will serve as our primary contact point. Dr. Alan Carter, Lieutenant Jennifer Walsh, you will act as our initial liaisons. We will return in exactly 48 of your hours to begin the formal evaluation process. Before either human could respond, the blue glow intensified briefly, and the aliens vanished. Alan and Jennifer stood in stunned silence for several moments. Finally, Jennifer activated her emergency communicator. This is Lieutenant Walsh. Priority 1 alert. First contact scenario is now in effect. I repeat, first contact scenario is now in effect. As Jennifer reported to her superiors, Alan turned back to his computers. The strange energy readings were now crystal clear. He could see dozens of cloaked ships in orbit around Earth. The Accione hadn't even bothered to hide them anymore. They think we're primitive, he said quietly, studying the data. They think we're just simple creatures who got lucky. Jennifer finished her call and joined him at the computer. That's good, she said with a slight smile. Let them think that. Ellen looked at her questioningly. Throughout history, humanity has always been at its most dangerous when underestimated, she explained. These Accione just made their first big mistake. They showed us their technology while telling us we're too primitive to understand it. Alan grinned as he began downloading all the new data. And now we have 48 hours to start proving them wrong. As the sun rose over Berkeley, the two friends worked tirelessly, knowing they were now part of something much bigger than themselves. Humanity had just been challenged, and if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was rising to a challenge. The Accione would learn that lesson soon enough. Dr. Susan Morgan wasn't supposed to be in the quantum lab that night. She had only come back to get her forgotten tablet, but now she found herself staring at the strangest thing she'd ever seen. The lab's main quantum resonance chamber was glowing with an odd purple light, something that definitely shouldn't happen when the machine was powered down. She pulled out her phone and called Alan Carter. Alan, something weird is happening with the quantum chamber. Don't touch anything, Alan replied quickly. I'll be there in 10 minutes. While waiting, Susan noticed that the purple glow seemed to pulse in a regular pattern. She grabbed a notebook and started writing down the timing of each pulse. By the time Alan arrived with Jennifer Walsh, she had filled 3 pages with numbers. Look at this pattern, Susan said, showing them her notes. It's like a heartbeat, but it only happens when one of their ships passes overhead. Alan and Jennifer exchanged looks. In the 2 weeks since first contact, they had been working nonstop to understand the Accione technology. The aliens had given them what they called simple tests, basic engineering problems that they claimed would take humans decades to solve. They're using quantum fields to stay hidden, Alan said, studying Susan's data. But they never considered that their fields might interact with our equipment in unexpected ways. Jennifer pulled up a satellite tracking app on her tablet. The pulses match perfectly with their patrol patterns. We can see them, even when they're cloaked. Not just see them, Susan added excitedly. I think we can predict where they'll be. The pattern repeats every 6 hours. Alan's eyes lit up. Susan, you're a genius. This is exactly what we needed. Over the next few days, they worked in secret, using the quantum chamber's reactions to map out the Axioni patrol routes. They discovered that the aliens followed strict, predictable patterns, never varying their schedule by even a second. They're overconfident, Jennifer said during one late-night session. They don't think we're capable of detecting them, so they don't bother to change their routines. Commander Peter Hayes visited the lab a week later. He was a tall man with graying hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. As head of Earth's newly formed Alien Response Division, he had been carefully monitoring their progress. Show me what you found, he said, closing the door behind him. The team displayed their findings on the main screen. A complete map of Axioni ship movements, updated in real time thanks to the quantum resonance effect they had discovered. They have exactly 27 ships in orbit, Susan explained. Each one follows a precise route, creating a perfect observation net around Earth. But look at this. She pointed to a spot over the Pacific Ocean. There's a gap in their coverage every 32 hours. It only lasts for 3 minutes, but it's there. Commander Hayes studied the pattern carefully. They're testing us, he said finally. These aren't just observation patterns. They're running scenarios to see how we react to contained situations. What do you mean? Alan asked. Look at where their ships concentrate, Hayes replied. They cluster over our major research centers, military bases, and technology hubs. They're creating artificial pressure points, probably expecting us to panic or make aggressive moves. Jennifer nodded slowly. But because they think we can't detect them, they don't realize we can see their whole strategy. Exactly, Hayes said. And we're going to use that advantage. Dr. Morgan, your accidental discovery might be the most important breakthrough in human history. The commander pulled out a secure tablet and showed them classified images from around the world. Other research teams had been making their own discoveries about the Axioni technology. In Japan, scientists had found a way to detect their communication signals. In Brazil, engineers had started to understand the basics of their propulsion systems. Humanity is adapting faster than they expected, Hayes explained. They think they're observing us, but we're learning more about them than they realize. Just then, the lab's screens lit up with an incoming message from the Axioni. Preliminary evaluation complete. Proceeding to Phase 2 testing. Prepare your facility for inspection. They're coming here, Susan asked nervously. Good, Hayes said with a slight smile. Dr. Morgan, I want you to reconfigure the quantum chamber. Make it look like a failed experiment. Dr. Carter, prepare your primitive reports for their inspection. Lieutenant Walsh, you know what to do. The team worked quickly to hide their real progress. They carefully concealed their breakthroughs under layers of apparent failure and confusion. When 3 Axioni representatives appeared in the lab an hour later, they found exactly what they expected to see. Struggling humans trying to understand technology far beyond their comprehension. Your progress is minimal, the lead Axioni observed, its metallic form shifting as it examined their equipment. But this is not unexpected for your development level. We're doing our best to understand your advanced technology, Alan said humbly, while Susan kept her eyes down to hide her smile. Your best is adequate for your primitive state, the Axioni replied. We will proceed with the next phase of testing. You will be given access to basic gravitational manipulation principles. We estimate it will take your species approximately 50 years to grasp these concepts. After the aliens left, Commander Hayes gathered the team. 50 years, they said. I want a working prototype in 6 months. Can you do it? Hélène looked at Susan, who was already scribbling equations in her notebook. Jennifer was reviewing the new data they'd gathered during the Axioni's visit. They all shared the same determined expression. 6 months, Alan said. Give us 3. As they got back to work, Susan paused to watch the purple glow in the quantum chamber. The Axioni ships continued their perfect, predictable patterns overhead, never varying, never adapting. They were so convinced of their superiority that they couldn't see the truth. Humanity wasn't just learning their technology, they were improving it. You know what's funny? Susan said to no one in particular. They keep calling us primitive, but they're the ones who haven't changed their methods in probably thousands of years. They're so advanced that they've forgotten how to adapt. Commander Hayes nodded approvingly. That's their weakness. They've reached their peak and stopped climbing. But humanity? He looked around the lab at his team, each person already focused on their next breakthrough. We're just getting started. Above them, the Axioni ships continued their patrols, unaware that their perfect observation network was now working against them. In labs and research centers around the world, humanity was quietly preparing to show the galaxy exactly how dangerous it was to underestimate a species that had survival and adaptation coded into its very DNA. The real test was about to begin, and it wasn't the one the Axioni had planned. Catherine Bennett stood in front of the strange alien device, her tools spread out on the workbench beside her. The Axioni had delivered it that morning, calling it a simple power generator that would take humans at least 10 years to understand. She had been working on it for 6 hours. I think I've got it, she said, making one final adjustment. The device hummed to life, floating slightly above the table as it generated a perfect sphere of blue energy. Daniel Ross, watching from his security station, checked his watch. 6 hours and 23 minutes. I believe that's a new record for solving their impossible challenges. Catherine smiled as she made notes about the device's construction. As the lead engineer for the Earth Defense Force's new Alien Technology Division, she had become an expert at taking apart Axioni technology and putting it back together, usually better than before. They always make the same mistake, she said, examining the energy sphere. They build everything in perfect patterns. Once you understand their basic design philosophy, the rest is just like solving a puzzle. The lab's communication system crackled to life. Incoming Axioni transmission, a voice announced. All personnel prepare for inspection. 3 Axioni materialized in the lab, their metallic forms reflecting the blue light from Catherine's activated device. The lead alien moved forward, its smooth face showing what might have been surprise. You have activated the power core, it stated. This was not expected for several years. Catherine kept her expression neutral, just as she had been trained. We got lucky with some of our tests, she said modestly, though we're still trying to understand the basic principles. The Axioni moved closer to examine the device. Your species continues to show unexpected progress rates. We will proceed with the advanced challenges ahead of schedule. The alien raised one flowing arm, and 5 more devices appeared on nearby tables. Each one was more complex than the last. These represent different aspects of our technology, the Axioni explained. Gravity manipulation, quantum communication, energy conversion, matter reorganization, and spatial displacement. They are arranged in order of difficulty. Based on your current development level, we estimate the final device will take your species approximately 100 years to comprehend. After the aliens left, Daniel locked down the lab and activated the security screens. They have no idea we can see through their cloaking tech, do they? No, Catherine replied, already examining the new devices. And they don't realize we've been studying their technology through our quantum resonance discoveries. Most of these principles are similar to what we've already figured out. She picked up her tablet and called Dr. Alan Carter and Dr. Susan Morgan, who had been leading the quantum research team. You two need to see this. They just gave us exactly what we've been waiting for. When Alan and Susan arrived, Catherine showed them the spatial displacement device. Look familiar? Susan's eyes widened. It's the same technology they use in their ship's engines. They just handed us their propulsion system. Not just that, Alan added, studying the quantum communication device. This is the same tech they use for their invisible communication network. They're literally giving us their most important systems, because they think we're too primitive to understand them. Catherine said. "Daniel, how long before they come back for their next inspection?" Daniel checked the patrol schedule they had mapped out. "Based on their patterns, we have exactly 2 weeks." Catherine looked at the 5 devices, then at her team. 2 weeks to crack their most advanced technology. "Think we can do it?" Alan grinned. "They said 100 years. Let's do it in 2 weeks just to see their faces." The team worked around the clock, building on everything they had learned from their previous studies of Axioni technology. Catherine discovered that each device was actually simpler than the aliens thought. They had over-engineered everything, adding unnecessary complexity because they had never needed to make their technology more efficient. On day 12, they had their breakthrough. Susan found a way to combine the quantum communication system with their own resonance technology, creating a hybrid system that was 30% more efficient than the original. Catherine stripped down the spatial displacement drive and rebuilt it using Earth materials, making it smaller and more powerful. "They don't innovate anymore," Catherine explained to Commander Hayes during his inspection. "They reached a level of technology they were happy with and just stopped trying to improve." But humans never stopped trying to make things better. The day before the Axioni were due to return, the team gathered to review their progress. All 5 devices had been mastered, improved, and rebuilt. They had even started developing new applications that the aliens hadn't thought of. "Tomorrow's inspection is going to be interesting," Daniel said, checking the security feeds. "Should we show them everything we've done?" Commander Hayes shook his head. "No, let's show them just enough progress to make them uncomfortable." "Catherine, demonstrate the power core and gravity manipulation only. Keep the rest under wraps." When the Axioni arrived the next day, they found Catherine working on the gravity device, with the power core floating nearby. "You have activated 2 devices," the lead alien observed. "This exceeds expected performance metrics." "We've been working hard to understand your amazing technology," Catherine said, maintaining her humble act, "though the other devices are still far beyond our comprehension." The Axioni studied the active devices closely. If they noticed the slight improvements Catherine had made, they didn't show it. But when they tried to check the other 3 devices, their sensors seemed to confuse them. "Our scans are inconclusive," one alien said to another in their musical language, not realizing that humans had cracked their communication codes weeks ago. "Their quantum signature is different from standard patterns." "Irrelevant," the lead alien replied. "Their primitive understanding cannot have affected the core technology." They turned back to Catherine. "Your progress will be noted. The testing phase will continue. Prepare for more advanced challenges." After they left, Catherine let out a laugh she had been holding in. "Did you see how confused they were by the quantum readings? They can't understand why their sensors aren't working properly." "Because they never expected us to improve their technology," Daniel said. "They thought we'd just copy it exactly like they do." Commander Hayes called an emergency meeting that evening. Representatives from research teams around the world attended virtually, each reporting similar successes with Axioni technology. "We're reaching a tipping point," Hayes announced. "Soon they're going to realize just how much we've learned. We need to be ready for their reaction." Catherine looked at her improved devices, thinking about all the new ideas she and her team had yet to explore. The Axioni thought they were testing humanity, but with every simple challenge, they were actually giving humans exactly what they needed to catch up to them. "Let them keep testing us," she said. "Every time they do, we get stronger." Above the Earth, the Axioni ships continued their perfect patrols, unaware that their technology was being not just mastered, but revolutionized by the primitive species they had so gravely underestimated. The real test wasn't about whether humans could understand their technology. It was about whether the Axioni could handle what humans would do with it. Navy Captain Christopher Mills watched his radar screen with growing concern. The Axioni ships had changed their patrol patterns for the first time in months. Something was wrong. "Get me Dr. Lauren Taylor," he ordered his communications officer. "Right now." Lauren was in her quantum communications lab when the call came through. She had been working on her latest breakthrough, a way to intercept and decode Axioni transmissions in real time. Her wall of screens showed streams of alien data flowing constantly. "Captain Mills," she answered, "I was just about to call you. The Axioni are talking a lot more than usual today. Something's got them worried." Chris rubbed his tired eyes. "They've changed their patrol routes. All their ships are moving in new patterns." "Can you tell what they're saying?" Lauren typed quickly on her keyboard, bringing up the latest decoded transmissions. They're talking about containment protocols." "Hold on." She went pale as she read further. "Chris, they know. They've figured out how much we've learned." "How bad is it?" "Bad. They're calling us a runaway development scenario. They've never seen a species advance this quickly before. They're scared." The captain's office door burst open as Lieutenant Jennifer Walsh rushed in. "Sir, you need to see this. The Axioni just deployed some kind of energy field around their ships. They're trying to block our quantum resonance detection." Chris stood up. "Get me Commander Hayes. And tell Catherine Bennett to implement Protocol Dark Shield. Now." Within an hour, Earth's military and scientific leaders were gathered in an emergency virtual conference. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. "They're trying to shut down our progress," Commander Hayes explained to the group. "The energy field around their ships is just the start. They're planning to restrict our access to their technology and limit our development." Catherine Bennett spoke up from her lab. "It won't work. We've already learned too much. Their attempts to block our quantum detection actually helped us understand their shielding technology better." Dr. Taylor's team cracked their new communications encryption in under an hour. Lauren nodded, her image flickering on the conference screen. "They don't realize that every countermeasure they take teaches us more about their systems. But there's something else." She paused, double-checking her data. "They're calling in reinforcements." The room fell silent. Finally, Chris spoke up. "How many ships?" "At least 50 more, maybe more. They'll be here in 3 days." Commander Hayes looked around the virtual room. "Options, people. What do we have?" Catherine shared her screen, showing schematics of modified Axioni technology. "We've improved their shield designs. We can protect our major cities and military installations. But more importantly," she brought up another diagram, "we've figured out how to hide things from their sensors completely." "How?" Chris asked, leaning forward. "By being less perfect," Catherine explained. "The Axioni rely on detecting patterns. Their technology, their ships, everything they do follows exact, mathematical patterns. So we've done the opposite. We've made our systems deliberately irregular. To their sensors, we'll look like background noise." Lauren jumped in excitedly. "That's brilliant. It's like hiding a signal in static. Their advanced sensors will actually work against them. They'll filter us out as interference." "Exactly," Catherine said. "We're ready to implement it globally within 24 hours." Commander Hayes nodded grimly. "Do it. Captain Mills, get our defense platforms ready. Dr. Taylor, keep monitoring their communications. I want to know their every move." As the meeting ended, Chris stayed behind with Jennifer Walsh, who had been quietly taking notes. "They're going to try something," Jennifer said. "The Axioni can't accept that we've advanced so quickly. It goes against everything they believe about technological development." Chris walked to his window, looking up at the night sky where he knew Axioni ships were patrolling. "You know what their biggest mistake was? They gave us just enough technology to understand their weaknesses. Every simple test they gave us was like handing over a piece of their puzzle." Jennifer joined him at the window. "And now they're panicking because we solved the puzzle faster than they thought possible." "Not just solved it," Chris corrected. "We improved it. Humans don't just copy technology. We adapt it, combine it, make it better. The Axioni can't understand that because they haven't truly innovated in thousands of years." The next few days were a flurry of activity. Catherine's team worked around the clock to implement their new hiding technology. Lauren's quantum communications network picked up increasing signs of alarm in Axioni transmissions as they lost their ability to track human activities. 3 days later, exactly as predicted, new Axioni ships appeared in Earth's orbit. But instead of finding a helpless primitive species, they found most of their targets had vanished from their sensors. Human cities and installations were now hidden behind irregular energy patterns that their perfect systems couldn't process. The lead Axioni ship sent a transmission to Earth. Your species has exceeded acceptable development parameters. Your access to advanced technology will be restricted effective immediately. Comply or face containment procedures. Commander Hayes sent a simple reply. We respectfully decline. In orbit, the Axioni ships moved into attack formation. But as they did, their perfect formation was reflected in 1,000 different ways by Catherine's jamming technology, creating a confusing maze of false signals. They're trying to recalibrate their sensors, Lauren reported, watching the alien communications. They've never dealt with anything like this. Their systems are designed to find patterns, not chaos. Chris watched from his command center as the Axioni ships struggled to coordinate. Their sophisticated sensors, designed to detect the smallest technological signatures, were being overwhelmed by the very lack of pattern in human defenses. Send word to all commands, he ordered. Prepare for defensive operations. But remember, no first strikes. Let them make the first move. Lauren's voice came over the comm system, urgent but controlled. Captain, they're charging weapons. Multiple ships. Chris looked at his tactical display, now showing dozens of Axioni ships trying to target Earth's hidden defenses. The aliens had finally revealed their true intentions. Faced with a species developing faster than they could control, they had chosen force. But humanity had spent months preparing for this moment, learning from every piece of technology the Axioni has shown them, adapting and improving it in ways the aliens had never imagined. All stations, Chris announced calmly, implement Protocol Chaos Shield. Let's show them why underestimating humanity was their biggest mistake. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and it would be unlike anything the Axioni had ever experienced in their thousands of years of galactic dominance. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous species aren't the ones with the most advanced technology, but the ones who know how to use that technology in ways you never expected. Admiral Mary Rodriguez stood at the command center of Luna Base, watching the holographic display of Earth's orbital space. The Axioni ships glowed like angry red stars against the black background, their weapons fully charged. Status report, she commanded. Chief Scientist Andrew Clark looked up from his console. Their targeting systems are still confused by our chaotic defense grid. They're trying to find a pattern in our shield fluctuations, but there isn't one to find. The first shots from the Axioni fleet lit up space like silent fireworks. Their energy weapons, designed to overwhelm any known defense system, scattered harmlessly across Earth's irregular shield network. Return fire, asked Captain Mills from his position at the weapons station. Mary shook her head. Not yet. Let them waste more energy trying to figure out why their attacks aren't working. Lauren Taylor's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, I'm picking up a lot of confused chatter from their fleet. They're saying this is impossible. Their weapons are at full power, but they can't get a solid lock on any of our installations. That's because they don't understand chaos, Andrew explained, his fingers flying over his keyboard. Their entire civilization is built on perfect patterns and predictable behaviors. Catherine's irregular shield design makes us look like random energy fluctuations to their sensors. The Axioni ships regrouped, forming a perfect geometric pattern above Earth. Their next attack was coordinated, dozens of energy beams striking simultaneously. But Earth's defenses held, the chaotic energy patterns absorbing and dispersing the attacks in unpredictable ways. They're sending us a message, Lauren announced. Playing it now. The lead Axioni's voice filled the command center. Your resistance is illogical. You cannot hope to defeat our superior technology. Surrender now and accept containment. Mary smiled slightly. Dr. Taylor, please send them our prepared response. Lauren transmitted the message they had ready, a complete technical breakdown of how the human defense system worked, along with detailed analysis of the flaws in Axioni weapon designs. The aliens had wanted to test human intelligence. Now they would see exactly how much humanity had learned from their simple challenges. The alien fleet fell silent for several long moments after receiving the transmission. When they responded, their usually smooth voice patterns showed clear signs of distress. This level of technological understanding is not possible for your development stage. You must be receiving outside assistance. Catherine Bennett, who had just arrived from her lab on Earth, laughed out loud. They still don't get it. They can't accept that we figured out their technology so quickly. Send them the second message, Mary ordered. This time, they transmitted schematics showing how humans had improved upon Axioni technology. Catherine's team had made their systems more efficient, more adaptable, and most importantly, less predictable. The alien fleet's response was immediate and aggressive. They launched their most powerful attack yet, a concentrated beam of energy that could have destroyed a small moon. But as the beam approached Earth, it encountered something new. Andrew activated the quantum mirror defense system they had developed by combining Axioni technology with Earth's quantum resonance discoveries. The attacking beam split into thousands of smaller beams, each reflected back at the alien fleet in random patterns. Direct hit, Captain Mills reported as several Axioni ships took damage from their own reflected energy. Their shields are dropping. They're panicking, Lauren said, monitoring their communications. Their ships are getting contradictory orders. Some want to retreat, others want to escalate the attack. Mary watched as the once perfect alien formation began to break apart. Now they're learning what happens when a plan meets chaos. Launch our counterattack. Earth's defense platforms came to life, revealing weapons that combined human innovation with adapted Axioni technology. Instead of the aliens' predictable energy beams, these weapons fired pulses that changed frequency and pattern randomly, making them impossible to track or block. Multiple hits confirmed, Mills reported. Their shield systems can't adapt fast enough to our varying attack patterns. The Axioni fleet scattered, their perfect formations dissolving into disorder. Several ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, while others simply stopped firing, their crews apparently unable to cope with the complete failure of their supposedly superior technology. The lead Axioni ship transmitted one final message. This is not possible. Your species cannot have advanced this far this quickly. It defies all known development patterns. Mary nodded to Lauren, who opened a channel to the alien fleet. The Admiral spoke clearly and firmly. What you call impossible, we call Tuesday. You assumed that because we hadn't discovered certain technologies yet, we couldn't understand them. You thought our primitive status meant we would take centuries to grasp concepts you've known for millennia. But you forgot something crucial about humanity. She paused, watching as more Axioni ships retreated from Earth orbit. We don't just learn technology, we improve it. We don't just copy designs, we make them better. And most importantly, we don't feel bound by the way things have always been done. You gave us simple tests, and we turned them into weapons. You showed us basic principles, and we developed them in ways you never imagined. The remaining Axioni ships were powering down their weapons. Their perfect battle plan had fallen apart in the face of humanity's chaotic but effective defense. Consider this a warning, Mary continued. Earth is not some primitive backwater to be tested and contained. We are humanity, and we just passed your test with flying colors. The only question is, did you learn anything from it? The Axioni fleet hung in space for several more minutes, their ships damaged by their own reflected energy and human counterattacks. Finally, without another word, they engaged their faster-than-light drives and vanished. In the Luna Base Command Center, the tension slowly eased. Catherine walked over to Andrew's station, looking at the battle data. They never saw it coming, she said softly. All their advanced technology, and they couldn't handle a simple concept like controlled chaos. That's because they stopped adapting a long time ago, Andrew replied. They reached a level of technology they were comfortable with and just stopped trying to improve. Mary looked around at her team, the scientists, engineers, and military personnel who had turned alien technology against its creators in ways the Accioni had never imagined possible. Send word to all Earth defense stations, she ordered. The immediate threat has passed, but stay alert. Something tells me the Galactic Confederation is going to have to seriously reconsider their classification system after this. As the celebration began around her, Mary kept her eyes on the tactical display. The Accioni ships were gone, but humanity's work was just beginning. They had proven they could defend themselves against advanced alien technology. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humanity could do when they really started to innovate. The age of being underestimated was over. The real question was, what would humanity do with their newfound respect in the galactic community? 3 months after the Battle of Luna Base, Dr. Alan Carter stood in front of the newly formed Galactic Council. The massive chamber, located on a neutral space station, held representatives from over 200 alien civilizations. The Accioni delegation sat rigid and uncomfortable, their metallic forms no longer shifting with their usual fluid grace. Susan Morgan stood beside Alan, while Jennifer Walsh and Commander Hayes flanked them. They had been chosen to represent Earth at this historic meeting. We have reviewed the events leading to the Luna Base incident, announced the council leader, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline structure. The Accioni's actions have raised serious concerns about our species' classification system. Alan stepped forward when given permission to speak. Thank you, honored council. We are here not to accuse, but to suggest a necessary change in how developing civilizations are evaluated. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's technological progress over the past year. The old system measured advancement by counting what technologies a species had already discovered. We propose measuring potential instead, the ability to learn, adapt, and improve. Susan added her data to the display, showing how humans had modified and enhanced various Accioni technologies. A species shouldn't be judged by what they know, but by how quickly they can learn and how creatively they can apply that knowledge. The chamber erupted in murmurs as various alien species discussed this concept. The Accioni representative rose to speak. The humans are dangerous, it declared. They advanced too quickly. They took our perfect systems and made them chaotic, unpredictable. This defies all natural development patterns. Commander Hayes stepped forward. With respect, that's exactly our point. There is no natural pattern to progress. Every species advances differently. By trying to force all civilizations to follow the same development path, you limit the potential for new ideas and innovations. He gestured to Jennifer, who activated another holographic display showing the hybrid technologies Earth had developed. Look at what we created by combining your technological principles with human creativity. Shields that use chaos theory to be more effective. Communication systems that adapt and evolve. Engines that don't just follow the laws of physics, they dance with them. The council leader's crystalline form pulsed with interest. You suggest that the Accioni's attempt to control your development actually spurred you to advance more quickly. Exactly, Alan replied. By trying to restrict us, they forced us to think creatively, to find solutions they had never considered. But it didn't have to happen this way. He looked directly at the Accioni delegation. Imagine if instead of testing us, you had collaborated with us. Think of what we could have created together. Your perfect patterns combined with our adaptive chaos. Your refined technology merged with our fresh perspectives. Catherine Bennett, who had just arrived from Earth, joined them at the podium. She had brought something special for this moment, a small device that combined both human and Accioni technology in ways neither species had imagined possible. This is what cooperation looks like, she said, activating the device. A beautiful display of energy filled the chamber, patterns forming and dissolving in an endless dance of order and chaos. Perfect structure and creative disorder. working in harmony. The council chamber fell silent as the aliens watched the display. Many of them had never seen anything like it, a technology that embraced both precision and unpredictability. "We propose a new classification system," Commander Hayes announced, "one that measures not just technological achievement, but potential for growth. Not just what a species knows, but how they think." The council leader's crystal form glowed brighter. "And what would you call this new classification?" Dr. Lauren Taylor, who had been quietly monitoring communications, stepped forward with their prepared response. "We call it the Adaptive Development Scale. It measures things like learning speed, innovation potential, and ability to combine different technological principles in new ways." Ellen took over again. Under this system, no species would be considered primitive just because they haven't discovered certain technologies yet. Instead, they would be evaluated on their capacity for growth and innovation. The council debated for hours. Finally, the council leader announced their decision. "The human proposal has merit. The current classification system will be revised. Additionally, Earth will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities thereof." The Accioni delegation stirred uncomfortably, but they could not object. Their own actions had proven the humans' point about the flaws in the old system. As the session ended, Alan and his team prepared to return to Earth. But before they left, the council leader approached them privately. "There is something you should know," it said, its crystal form pulsing softly. "Many of us have watched your species for a long time. Some feared your potential for chaos, for unpredictable growth. The Accioni were not the only ones who wanted to contain you." "And now?" Jennifer asked. "Now you have shown us something we have forgotten. That progress doesn't always follow a straight line. That chaos and order can work together. That sometimes the most primitive-seeming species can teach the most advanced ones something new." Back on Earth, the team gathered in the old quantum lab where it had all started. The same lab where Alan had first detected the Accioni ships, where Susan had discovered the quantum resonance effect, where Catherine had taken apart and improved alien technology. "So what now?" Susan asked, looking around at her friends and colleagues. "We're part of the galactic community. We have access to technology from hundreds of civilizations. Where do we go from here?" Alan smiled as he watched the quantum chamber pulse with its familiar purple glow. "We do what humans have always done. We learn. We adapt. We improve. And most importantly," he looked at each person in the room, "we make sure no other species has to go through what we did just to prove their worth." Commander Hayes nodded in agreement. "The galaxy got a warning today, but not the one the Accioni intended. Instead of warning advanced civilizations about primitive species, we warned them about the dangers of underestimating potential." As night fell over Berkeley, the team watched the stars through the lab's window. Somewhere up there, the Accioni and other advanced civilizations were still trying to understand how they had so completely misjudged humanity's capabilities. But humans already understood the answer. It wasn't about having the most advanced technology or the most perfect systems. It was about having the courage to take something perfect and make it better, even if that meant making it a little bit chaotic in the process. The age of being underestimated was over. The age of innovation had begun, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy just how far a primitive species could go when given the chance to reach for the stars.